Next lube is your friend. Always. Hey guys, welcome back. Episode 2 here of the Radical Build. Today we're getting into the oil system, or at least hopefully kind of finishing off a good portion of it. I was lucky enough that the car came with the dry sump tank from Radical along with the oil feed line. Now I did have to buy an aftermarket, or I guess a replacement dry sump pan or system for the engine that I got. It did not have a dry sump system. It was just kind of a high boosted motor out of probably off of a street bike. Looks pretty low mileage, so that part's good, but it did not have the dry sump that I really wanted to run on here. So I got one from SBD Motorsports, and I'm going to assume that that's maybe who Radical used back in the day, because the feed hose from the Radical tank fit directly up to the feed line on the SBD pan. So that's good news. Didn't have to remake that hose, and it works perfectly. But what we do have to do today is get the return hose into the oil cooler, and then from the oil cooler back into the sump tank. So, and the other thing I want to do is add a catch can. SBD's paperwork kind of wanted to have 2 catch cans, one off the dry sump tank and one off the breather for the engine, and they wanted those to be separate, not shared tanks. So I did get an additional breather tank. I have the breather tank for the engine already installed. I just got to run a line to it, but got one from Radium. These are pretty nice little small catch cans. Doesn't hold a lot, but ideally out of the dry sump tank, there shouldn't be a lot of blow by. I've got a little bit of fire sleeve for the hose. This is just kind of because it runs near some headers. I got some fittings, hopefully the right angle. That should get me around for most of it. And got some hose from Vibrant. So pro tip, just with some of this stuff, from what I've found is, lots of people make these and hoses. Lots of people make the fittings and the ends and stuff. I try to match the manufacturer to the ends. They seem to just go together better. The tolerances are a little better. So if you're recycling hoses and you've got Earl's hoses and you're gonna redo all the lines with PTFE lines, like you went to E85 and you need to be PTFE for E85 friendly, get the Earl's hose that goes with those lines. You can reuse all the lines, unbolt them and put them back together, no problem. That's kind of the point of these, but the line is fairly critical. I guess you could use interchangeable, but yeah, I've not had great luck. Sometimes they like to leak, so it takes 2 or 3 times. It's just easier to recycle with what you got. And I like Vibrant. My friends at Pure are a dealer from them, and that's where I get most of my stuff. So yeah, it's just good to have. So let's get into it. I guess we'll start by measuring, making some lines. Making these lines isn't terribly difficult. I'll show you guys how to do it. I think I have another video that may show how this is done, but I'll do it again, no big deal. It's good content. And today, for this, I'm just gonna measure with the actual line, just kind of go place it over where it needs to be and kind of run it back behind the motor. And just got caps on both ends, so we're not gonna get any weirdness in the hose or anything. And I think with this car and this setup, doing it this way will work just fine. Oops. Especially if I do it the correct way. It's also a good idea to kind of place your fittings, your angled fittings especially, where you think they're going to need to be in order to do proper measuring. If you need to be very precise, like you're making some of the fuel lines I'm going to make a little bit later are going to be very precise, then you really want to get out the measuring tape and make sure that you're being pretty accurate. There's probably a good couple inches of slack we could make changes to in this line and not have any issues. So I found what works pretty well, both to cut this stuff and to mark it, is just kind of wrap it in masking tape, give it a couple good layers, and that protects the hose itself when you're cutting it. Right. That's going to be pretty much the hose measured, or the hose laid out. Let's get it cut, let's get the ends put on it, and we'll see how it fits. All right, so when it comes to cutting this stuff, the bandsaw really is one of the best options. It gets a pretty nice clean cut. You can use a hacksaw. A lot of guys will use an angle grinder. For the nylon braided stuff, the angle grinder doesn't seem to work as well. It kind of burns the ends, so to each their own, but I've got this all ready to go, so let's get this lopped off. So a couple of things that are imperative to doing this job, not only correctly but cleanly, is some kind of aluminum wrench, for lack of a better term. You can use an any 16ths to put these together. You absolutely can use a steel any 16ths. It works fine. But what it does is it scratches the hell out of the aluminum fittings, and then they look like trash. And you're spending all this money to make stuff look really nice, function really nice. You just want it to be right. The other thing to help prevent that are these vice clamps or jaws for the vice. And they just kind of mine at least, magnet on. I think I got these from Amazon or Summit, one of these. This actually came from a company on Amazon called Evil Energy, great name. And they were cheap. It was very inexpensive. And these adjustable end wrenches aren't anything that special. So I thought I'd give them a try. A good friend of mine is sponsored by them. So thanks, David, for the recommendation. These are great. So a couple things of note. One, make sure you put your fire sleeve on before you're fitting. It does not go over the fittings otherwise. And usually you can kind of scooch it around in the hose a little bit. So if you are using fire sleeve, which I recommend if it's near anything hot, anything at all. These are not the most durable lines in that regard. There we go. So we'll get that put kind of a little closer into position just to kind of protect it from those headers, which are going to be ceramic coated, but still, let's go ahead and get everything as heat proof as possible. Next, lube is your friend. Always. WD-40 works great for this application, but you can use just any kind of lubricant to kind of help get these fittings together a little bit smoothly. And basically you just drop the cap. Sometimes it's a little easier to do it this way. Definitely a little effort required. And you want to get it, I'm going to try to zoom that in on there, see if that'll focus. There we go. And I'll kind of move it around a little. What you really want to do is you want to get that hose pretty much up to the threads or the end of those threads. There's a little lip in there so it can't go past it, at least on these vibrant fittings. And then what I do is I put this end, because I don't want the hose just whipping around on me, I put this end in the vise. And kind of cinch it down. Don't go crazy tight, you will break it. And then what we're going to do is put just a little lubricant right on the end of here, jam her down in there, and use this guy to tighten it in. You kind of want to do it in one fluid motion if you can. That just kind of start and stopping sometimes will burr or mar up the threads. So try to get it all done in one. All right, starting it by hand is always a good plan. All right, that is the line built. Pretty easy, simple, takes only a few minutes. We can undo this and redo it if we made the line way too long or way too short. That's the advantage of these kind of multiple piece fittings or fitting ends. And these are also swivel. So if you didn't clock the hose correctly to the other end, they do swivel. Not all fittings do that, especially the PTFE ones. So be cautious, because the PTFE non-swivel ones, you have to make sure you clock the hose position correct to the other end, especially if it's a short hose. And that can really cost you if you don't do that correctly. So keep that in mind when you're buying fittings and when you're making the fittings. I know y'all like unboxing videos, so let's do a little unboxing video of this Radium catch can. This is their catch can kit single universal. So it comes with a nice little powder coated aluminum mounting bracket, nicely vacuum sealed so it doesn't get scratched. Of course, the obligatory Radium Engineering stickers. A notice to check the catch can fluid level every 5,000 miles. Don't think we're going to get that far today, or well, ever in this car. There'll be a lot of mileage on a Radical. And then the actual can itself. Now this uses some -10 ORB fittings and screws. I'm assuming mounting screws. Yep, some little mounting screws. Oh, this is cool. This is very nice. So this is really highly precision engineered aluminum. And I think, yep, this is one that oh, that is cool. So you can kind of see there's some like steel mesh in there to prevent oil from escaping and to kind of break up the oil itself. I'm assuming this is your inlet. I got to look at the little instruction sheet, but this will be the inlet. This will probably be for just a filter. It actually has, believe it or not, a threaded, is it threaded or is it just pull? No, it's threaded. Maybe not. Oh my gosh, it's very tight, whatever it is. Well, it's 10 mil, and I don't have a 10 mil. Oh. It's threaded, but I gotta get it out of here. Oh my gosh. Oh, O-ring was kind of stuck in there, but it actually has, so this is really cool. It actually has a little threaded dipstick so that you can tell how full the catch can is. I think that's pretty clever, especially considering the price of this thing was not very much at all. That is an incredibly cool feature. So it's got, of course, a nice O-ringed seal for the holding canister, and what looks to be, and is, a little drain plug on the bottom. So if you don't want to unscrew the whole bottom of the canister, or if you can't, you can just unscrew that little drain plug. Depending on where this ends up, not sure if that'll be an option or not to unscrew it. Also not sure it's going to really pick up a whole lot. But again, we'll find out. I have never used a dry sump before, so it will be new to me. Let's get into this little mounting bracket here. They wrapped it so carefully. I will do the same, unwrapping it. Woohoo! All right. So that is going to go, oops, just like that, and kind of create a nice little bracket to mount it on. And I'm sure, yeah, probably going to go that way with it. Nice and subtle. And we can run that -10 line in there. So let's see if we can find a place for this in the bay. I have just the spot. Yeah, I'm thinking right there for that canister. Means I have to get from there up to there. All right, guys, that wraps up today's video. It's a short one, I know, but there isn't a whole lot of complexity to this system. There's just a couple of lines, an oil cooler, and a sump tank. That's pretty much it. If you like what you saw, again, click like, click subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.